11 years passed, almost too swiftly. On a lonely, newly tarred lane that ran through recently built public flats in Abernethy, two friends strolled side by side. Dusk was approaching, but they were not in a hurry to part. It was a quiet Sunday. It was a quiet Sunday evening. Around them, a gentle wind stirred the young trees that lined the street. Not many people use this street of the of this of the suburbs, and so the two friends had a place to themselves. Their only companions were the 3-day-old moon and a few bright stars already in the sky. The moon and the stars seemed to walk up and down with them. "I love the moon," Amma said. "Me too," Ad replied. "It's beautiful." They strolled silently on. "Do you know why the moon always appeared in the evening, with 2 or 3 very bright stars to accompany her?" Ado asked. Amma thought for some time and said, "I wasn't taught that one at school." Well, there was triumph in Ado's voice and a smile on his face. "The moon is the lady, and the stars are young men. Every star in the sky wants." He suppressed the laughter hiding in his cheeks. "You cooked that one up," said Amma, surveying Ado's face to confirm her suspicion. "Who told you this?" "My mother. She said beautiful moons never lacked stars to pursue them." Amma only chuckled. Silence overtook them again. Ado had something to tell her this evening. He had kept it to himself for many months, since the pulse in his heart began to nag him to it. This evening he must tell her, but there was no hurry. He took his time. The smile he had tried to suppress returned, but it was not for the moon and her lovers. It was for himself. He couldn't believe that all this was happening to him, that he, once a child of grief, was no longer a child nor grieved. He had never thought he would be able to smile on life as he could today. Him, of all people, 11 years ago, he had taken those shaky steps into a future he knew nothing about. For 11 years, he had tasted the kindness of a couple who became his parents, Ofori and Becky. He had grown to love them and their 3 children, especially the little boy who chose to call him uncle, although the others called him big brother. "Thank God," he said that loud. Amma heard it. She looked at him and said, "What for?" "For for everything, for everybody, for you, for me, for Ofori and Becky, for your father and stepmother, for everybody who has helped us, for Yarrow," Amma contributed. "For Yarrow, of course." Another spell of silence. Two people overtook them on the lane and hastened towards one of the flats. Dusk was fully here, and the streets were well lit. A few fireflies sparkled on and off in the light, crises crossing one another, but Ado and Amma were obvious to them. And for Yarrow, Ado feasted on that thought, but for Yarrow he would probably be dead. Yarrow was the man who first told him the steps of practical faith in God. He knew now that it was no ordinary thing Yarrow had given him. Where would he be without the faith in God that sustained him in those fragile moments when he would otherwise have chosen death? As his faith had gained ground these past 11 years, he had begun to ask for something special for Yarrow. Yarrow was as lonely as Ado himself, a wandering man with no family, who insisted that God was enough family for him. Often, Ado had prayed that God would give Yarrow a family of his own. Now he smiled at the direct answer to his prayer. For recent, he had heard that Yarrow had indeed married a young woman from his own tribe. No, he had never thought that his life could smile on him again, and that he could smile on life. But now, here he was, a teacher. He loved Ofori and Becky, and he loved their profession as well. After his elementary education, he had decided to train as a teacher. He enrolled in a teacher training college for 4 years, and after that, began to teach in the primary school. In all these years, he had not broken contact with Amma. Something more than friendship had begun to grow between them as they matured into young adults. It was no surprise to Ofori and Becky, or to Amma and her parents, when 2 years before, Ado had asked for a transfer to Abenes. For accommodation, he got one of the newly built flats in this quiet suburb. Since he had moved to this place, Amma had come to know the area as well as she knew the place where she lived with her parents. Perhaps I could move into one of these flats, said Amma. It was a deliberate attempt to break the silence. Adu smiled. Exactly. Why do you want to come and live here? He asked, in a voice that implied he knew the answer. Who said it's because of you I want to come here? I just like the flats. Can't you see they are beautiful? I know. They both laughed. Besides, Amma began and stopped. Go on. Besides, nothing. No, seriously. I want to know. Do you know how old I am? At my age, don't you think I deserve my own flat? Oh, yes, of course. The mocking tone in his voice was still there. They strolled on. Monsters had appeared toward the moon, but the evening was still young. There is no condition that is permanent, Ado recalled a favorite saying of Teacher Ofori. He didn't need anybody to tell him that was true. If not, he would be a grieved child still. But the years of grief were over. Through the pain of loss and, deprivation, he had learned that with God, all things are possible. He no longer dreaded the future, nor the past, nor anything that threatened to snatch his peace away. No, no condition was permanent, or else he would still be under his auntie's heavy arm. Something really puzzled him about his auntie. He turned to see if Amma was ready for the question that popped into his mind. Her face was calm, but she was clearly engrossed in her own thoughts. He decided not to interrupt her. In any case, he did not know how Amma would feel if he would if he were to start discussing Goma with her. The years had eventually broken those mother and daughter ties between his auntie and Amma. As the girl grew to love her new home and people, but he thought it better not. It's better not to mention the subject. This evening was too nice to spoil. He shivered his own thoughts. It was not important, but he was puzzled all the same. How did his auntie survive the illness that everyone thought would kill her? Tough as still, she had not only survived the illness, but had come through the traumatized experience of having a daughter and a nephew snatched from her. Ado had paid her a number of visits, but his most cherished memory was of that day he openly confessed his bitterness against her and asked her for forgiveness. Ado to his mind Adu turned his mind to Amma. Yes, she did deserve her own apartment. She was a grown-up woman now. She had completed a secretarial course in Abenese, their home their hometown, and settled down to work as a secretary at the Ministry of Health. I like the way you type, Adu suddenly remarked. Amma laughed. How did this connect with their conversation? Suddenly, Ado felt this was the moment he had been waiting for. He was 25 and ready for marriage, and whenever he thought of it, no woman came to his mind but Amma. They shared the same faith and a similar past. They had prayed together, cried together, shared moments of deep concern, and encouraged one another. Amma was the woman for him. He picked his words carefully. Listen, Amma, I'm looking into the future and us living together as husband and wife. That's what I've been wanting to tell you, to find out from you. You said you wanted to have your own flat, and I'm asking you to come and join me. The reason I asked you for this work was so that I could ask you to marry me. I love you, and I know you know it. She did know it. She had known Ado would bring up the subject soon, but not this evening. Some of her friends at the hospital had asked her if she had any man in mind. She always said yes. That kept the men away. Now there was no need to pretend or hide. Ado was her man. She stopped. Ado turned to her with a question on, on his lips, but he had no time to ask it. Amma said, I love you very much. They stood face to face in the middle of the lane. Their shining eyes told the story of their longing for each other. Impulsively, Ado hugged Amma as tight as he could. He kissed her and she kissed him. They knew that they belonged to one another.